Welcome back to SketchUpTalk, the SketchUp-filled 30 to 40 minutes of your life, which I didn't have an introduction prepared for this one. I got to be honest, I kind of ran out of fuel. This is like the 12th one I've recorded this season. Thanks for fun. I'm sorry. Welcome to SketchUpTalk. I'm Aaron. With me today for this, I didn't want to minimize, for the most important episode of SketchUpTalk. I mean, I saved it for last on purpose. Welcome, Jody Gates.
Nice recovery. Very, very nice recovery.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hashtag professionalism. So Jody is the product manager for content platforms. So we're going to start with that title. We're going to talk about what exactly that means. So your words, your job description, what is it you'd say you do here?
Well, so I wanted as fancy a title as possible. So I started with that. Because it actually is easier to explain than knowledge manager, which I think sounds fancier, but I set that aside. So knowledge platforms would be our help center and our forum. And I manage them as products. What that really means is whenever something breaks, I'm in charge of finding someone to fix it, or whenever a feature needs to be added, I need to either figure out what feature to add or who I'm going to get to put that feature in there. So mostly it's a lot of scrambling around on the back end, trying to get people to do things for me, create content, write articles.
Nice. Makes sense. That's a manager. That's a manager.
Yeah. It's like managing people without the people.
And you are, so we've had a couple product managers who have had on their plates, software that they deliver. So your product management's a little bit different, but you actually do align releases.
I do,
because we have new content shows up.
Yeah, I still have the same deadlines. Well, not quite the same deadlines as like SketchUp itself. So SketchUp launches on X day, and my stuff needs to be done and pushed on that day. They have a beta testing period. I don't have. About 2 months back, I've got to have the initial content done, and then I get a couple months worth of, or a month worth of QA, making sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, things like that. But otherwise, it's kind of the same product lifecycle as the actual product itself. But throughout the rest of the year, while they're working to make more stuff, I'm either trying to go and fix old articles that maybe got overlooked that need to be updated, or I try and fill in the blanks, stuff that's missing. Like one of my big things for this year is to try and get all of your little videos, what am I trying to call it? The skill builders into the appropriate article where they belong. So,
awesome. Well, that can only make our knowledge base better.
That's right. And that's all I'm trying to do, to make our knowledge base better.
Well, and it's definitely taken steps forward. I can say you're doing it.
There have been complaints, and there have been some accolades, maybe. Not directly to me, I'm sure, but I'm pretty sure they're out there.
Well, I think not a whole lot of people go into software development for the positive feedback. It's not known for that necessarily.
That's true. That's good.
So the other piece, of course, is the forum,
right?
And the forum's a little different because that doesn't have releases.
Right.
We do.
The closest
announce product launches.
Right. So anytime someone, like say marketing or support, anybody, if they have a question they want to ask the community, they'll usually write it, but then they sort of vet it through me, or they at least come to me saying, how do I pin this, or how do I make sure this gets out there? Or in some cases, I will actually help them write it or write it for them, just because sometimes, they write like an engineer rather than a person likes to hear themselves talking. Which is me.
That works. And that's, as much as we kind of brag about the self-moderation of our forum, because we do have people like the sages.
Yeah.
We have staff members who do that, but really when push comes to shove and somebody says, who's responsible for what's going on in the forum, that is also you.
When someone says they don't like the forum, it's my fault. When someone says they do like the forum, also my fault.
Hey, so good with the bad. That's
although I do, whenever they say they like the forum, I tend to defer to the sages, because honestly, our sages are rock stars. And kind of what make it as awesome as it is. So
we can slightly derail here, because I do have a question. How far back does stagehood go? I mean, when did that come about? When did we decide that we're going to create this honorary title of stagehood and put it on people? So
we didn't have a program when we were at Last Software. But once we were at Google and we were trying to grow that, and there were all these other communities, because Google had a very, very strong focus on one-to-many. You answer one question and it goes to as many people as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had a formal program, which was trying to create a community for every one of their products. And we just already happen to have an amazing community. So as everybody started trying to come up with clever names that went with their product, Sage just sort of stuck with ours. So it was probably, I don't know, almost 10 years ago that we kind of came up with the idea of Sages, and then that follows when we moved to Trimble.
And for anybody who's listening and doesn't know what a Sage is, how would you describe those special few?
So, gosh, there's so many ways to describe them. They're basically SketchUp power users that enjoy helping other people. I've actually heard it stated that, at least for some of them, it's not necessarily about helping people so much as they learn a lot from it.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes both ways. By trying to teach someone else how to do a thing, you get better at doing that thing. So these power users, either they want to help other people figure it out, or they just enjoy the thrill of figuring out a thing and then telling someone else how to do it. So,
well, and it's amazing because, like I said, we do have staff who gets on there. We do take responsibility for some of the things, like if somebody flags something as spam or whatever, somebody on staff usually takes care of that. But I'll say a bulk of the answers, like 90-some%, answers or questions are answered by people on the forum. And
right.
The Sages are like the black belts of answering questions.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the beauties of the forum, the platform we use, Discourse, is we can actually set up so our Sages have almost as much power as we do. I mean, if they see something and they know it's bad, then they can flag it. And then once that's flagged, if you get enough people flagging it, then it'll actually pull it offline. So whenever things are inappropriate, I'm sleeping, Sages are not sleeping, and all of a sudden it just disappears. I come in and it's magical fix. So
that's great. That's the self-moderating portion of the forum, which is great.
Yeah, it's funny because just to kind of jump in the way back, I've actually been the guy in charge of every single migration we had. When I started in 2004, we were using this Forum software called Forum BBS.
And that was at last.
That was at last. Yeah.
2004, pre-Google.
Yeah. And we were using Forum, which didn't have a login. Come in, you can post, and you just say, this is my name, and that was it. And so there's no security, there's no anything like that. And then right before we moved to Google, I moved us to PHP BB, I believe, which finally got us logins. And there was so much excitement. And then we moved to Google, and Google wanted us to move to their platform, and it keeps repeating. But I think we've been on the current Discord platform for, I guess, almost as long as we've been at Trimble, so 7 or 8 years now.
Yeah, probably less than a year after the acquisition, right?
Yeah.
Which I think was and not that I want to talk negative, but I think everybody appreciated the step up to good discourse from the Google.
Yeah, there was not, we actually lost a chunk of our, I wouldn't say we're gone forever, but like when we moved from PHP BB to Google's, we lost a bunch of our users that didn't want to use the format that Google has. So they actually they moved over to Sketchucation, which is just a completely user run forum. Mm-hmm. And some of the people that were power users on the old forum went on to run that one. Mm-hmm. And they'll periodically check in our current forum, but at this point, there's now 2 really strong SketchUp communities.
Right. So it's also blowing my mind.
That works well for all the users. So that's good.
Yeah, more resources. So when you said you started in 2004, what position did you come into SketchUp?
So I started out doing tech support. It was phone and email support. We did a lot of phone support, and a lot of back then user base was small enough. It was just me and Jim Holden was the godfather of all things support at SketchUp for as long as it's had support. So I was just doing just straight phone, email, and forum support, and you could ask us about anything. We covered all there. And then at Google, they didn't have, tech support wasn't as big a thing. And as I said, they were trying to do more one-to-many. Right. So they didn't have phone support. That was something we brought back once we were at Trimble. They didn't really have a whole lot of email support even. And so a lot of it was actually building out the products. I mean, I would say that sort of precedes where I'm currently at, which is at Google. I was a community experience, I don't know, that's CXS. Was that? computer experience support. I don't even remember what it means, but the idea was that it was largely I would talk to engineers, or I'd talk to QA, and I'd try and basically connect users to make sure that user issues were done by the powers that be. So it was it's definitely a different beast when we were at Google. And our forum sort of slacked. It was interesting because I would say we were special at Google. Like SketchUp always felt like people would come visit us in Boulder from the main Google office. And the SketchUp team always made the Boulder office. Google seemed that much more inviting and appealing. It was we had a lot more older people, but we also had just a lot of people excited about the product, which a lot of that is not present with a lot of products at Google. So it was always interesting to see people come out to the Boulder office. They're just like, the SketchUp team is so much different. Or even going on to the forum. Like people are like, how can we make our forum more like your forum? I'm like, I don't think you can get people that excited about Gmail. I mean, the reality is that
it's just not a creative tool.
We've always had a group of like this nice mix between creative and technical. So our power users, our sages, are creative people that also have kind of a technical background, which is not like most other Google products. So yeah, we've even run into that at Trimble. People want to make other products at Trimble be more like SketchUp, and SketchUp's such a unique creature that every time we're acquired by someone, people are trying to give some of the SketchUp cachet off onto everything else. Yeah,
it's interesting because when you look at SketchUp as its own software product, it's different from a lot of CAD packages. A lot of CAD packages have, it's just a professional user with this very defined workflow. I draw this thing, I create this paper output, and that sort of thing. Where SketchUp kind of excels at, well, you make up the workflow. Don't let the tool get in the way. So it's very unique in that way, and I think that draws in a unique community. Like you said, we do have people who they're first and foremost creative. Because if you go up and you look at the sages, which we'll come back to the sage thing, but if you look at what they do, they're woodworkers. They have themselves described as artists. We do have people who are designers or architects, but they're all kind of on that edge of doing something different.
Yeah. It's interesting to see like how much different SketchUp is from like just about any other kind of CAD package. Mm-hmm. Even the newer ones, which to look at, I mean, a lot of them look like they're trying to emulate what SketchUp, what looks like SketchUp. There was a time where I would see something and I'd go, that's a SketchUp model. Mm-hmm. And now I'm like, that might be a SketchUp model. So, I mean, that's probably the highest praise.
Oh yeah.
Right? But it's interesting to see like the different types you get. We definitely, it works to both ends. I mean, so going to trade shows has always been a big part of working at SketchUp. You go out there and you go to show, now you can meet people and you can kind of interact with them. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting because easily for the first 10 years, and maybe even sometimes now, I don't go to as many shows as I used to. It used to be you would go out there and you draw just a box, and then you'd use just a flat 2D box, and you do a push-pull, and all of a sudden people would be like, whoa! Like just something as simple as that got so much interest out of the users. So it was always interesting to go and encounter people like that. And this was wherever we go. Like we'd go to game shows like GDC, the Game Developer Conference, or Apple used to have their own annual show. And then of course AIA or any of these things. And you go to these markets where it's not architecture and there's still so much interest and enthusiasm. I mean, it wasn't 3D printing when we started. Right. It wasn't, but there were still woodworkers doing it. Mm-hmm. Like one of our sages, I think was one of the editors at Fine Woodworking magazine. Mm-hmm. It's probably still doing it too. Yeah. But he's been using it since way before they were solids tools and learning to do it the hard way. So yeah, it's always interesting to see. And what's also fun is people will use it professionally, and then they'll just turn around and go home and do it at home as well. So
that's got to be the best praise you can give some software is I use this for 8 hours and then I go home and then I spend another couple hours of my own time modeling.
Yeah, it's that. I mean, no, I definitely would not do that with Excel maybe. I mean, sometimes Excel's fun, but
it isn't like Word. A spreadsheet for there.
Yeah, but so it's fun. It's fun to actually be excited like that. I used to tell people probably the thing most modeled at SketchUp is people's basement, the SketchUp team's basement, as we all respectively have some project that we're working on that is It's either renovating basement or creating birdhouse. Or
See, I think that's cool because I kind of, so I don't know, I'm the young guy, the new guy at SketchUp. I only got 4 years or something like that. So I do get to go to trade shows, and I hear these stories and stuff like that. Where like, oh yeah, we just would sit down and do model stuff, and people would line up and draw us, and like that sounds so awesome because now we go and everybody's already using it. Like we go to trade shows and they're like, oh yeah, I've had it for 5 years. Yeah, I've been using it for 10 years. Oh, since I got out of college. You know, that's kind of what everybody does. So it's kind of a bummer because I missed that piece, which is super exciting. But it's a little different because now we go and it's almost like when we go to events, it's like going on the forum in real life.
Yeah.
Like oh yeah, I did see your post. Oh, you're that guy. Okay, yeah. So yeah, how did that work out? Or yeah, Dave took care of that.
And you're probably a little bit famous at this point. I mean, your face is all over the place. So you go and you at least get to meet people face to face, and they're like,
"That's true."
Yeah, no, I watch you on."
People who walk up to me and call me by my first name, I'm like, "Hi, buddy."
Hey, how's it going? Yeah. So when I started, this is actually kind of funny to me. He's not with us anymore, but not with SketchUp anymore. He's still around. Mark Carvalho did the original videos, and they were in these like MOV file or AVI files. And so a lot of times when I first started doing support, I would actually. One of my support things was teaching people how to install the codec to be able to watch our videos because there was no YouTube. There was no streaming service. There's no way at all to watch video other than download it and then make sure that you've got QuickTime codecs installed so that you can actually watch the thing. But so I had made it through that on my own and I would watch some of the videos. But there was not a face with it. It was just SketchUp modeling.
Right. And
the guy doing the voice was Mark Carvalho, who was one of the original product managers and also was doing a lot of kind of initial training stuff. And something about just the calm pace of his videos, I always thought it was just like this little old guy in his basement. It sounded much like just like an old guy in his basement, in his garage, just in there doing it. And then you meet him and I'm older now than he was then.
I had the same experience because I saw the videos and I heard it and I remember being in the office and hearing him. And being like,
what's that old game show? It was like,
there'd
be a voice behind the curtain, and you're like, you might remember me from.
Yeah, it was that kind of thing where like I heard it and looked around, and I was picturing, like somebody who could probably play Santa Claus or something like that,
Yeah, didn't look like that at all.
He's totally normal.
But those videos, just like now, was it was a complete gateway. I mean, I think that was the first time I'd used an application that actually had videos teaching me how to do stuff. Mm-hmm. So it was such an easy way to get into it. And then SketchUp was so easy to actually learn. I remember the first time I opened SketchUp, though, we used to default to just top down. Mm-hmm. So I'd see the red and the green, and the blue was just, sticking in your face. So I didn't know that there was an isometric view. And I thought, because old CAD packages, maybe they're still this way, I don't even know. You have your 4 quadrants, and you draw here, and then you get your top, your front, and your side, and then you might get your isometric in the corner. And so I started drawing. When I first started using SketchUp, I was trying to do it in just one quadrant. Nothing was happening in the other quadrants. I'm like, what is going on? And then I must have accidentally rotated a little bit. So like back then we didn't have scale figures.
Right.
And we started in top down. So just doing those 2 things, I think, changed a lot of the kind of the feel of how you actually start modeling in SketchUp.
That's cool. Yeah, because that is, people still struggle with that. It's you're in 3D space always.
Right.
There is no
scale.
Yeah. There's no scale. There's no 2D drawing. 2D's not a thing. That's not a thing. 2D is just part of your 3D. Yeah. That's cool. So you've seen the training materials and the community come up from nothing to.
Yeah. When I started, we didn't really have a training team. I was helping. So there were only like 20 of us. I think I'm employee number 20 or something like that. So there were only just a couple dozen of us when I first started. And so everybody wore multiple hats. But I was like literally building the computers for the people that were coming on and getting software set up so they'd have what they need. So like Tyson, probably know Tyson. So I built Tyson's computer. I built all these people that came along after me. I built their computers and helped set them up, get set up. So yeah, it's interesting to see how many people are still here from back then.
That is, considering how many changes in ownership it's gone through, it's amazing to see that you still have so many people who are, the original crew.
Yeah, it feels like most of them are right down there, kind of in our immediate, the group that talks to the people the most.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that the engineers, there's a handful, but we've got so many engineers at this point that, relative to the number of engineers that are working on SketchUp, there's not many there from the original old guard. Like a handful of them have reached retirement age, even, so that's kind of a funny thing too.
Yeah,
because it's been 16 years. So what did we just had our 20th birthday. Or it's this week or something like that. Is it?
Yeah, I think it's Friday.
So it's
last Friday,
like the 20th birthday from the first bill that we sold, or the first bill that we released, or something like that.
And that's today. We're talking about middle of February, sometime around 20 years ago. Not at the time you're listening to this. We might be 21 by then. Or legal drinking age.
Who knows? Could be
SketchUp, you get that.
And let's hope it doesn't.
Or
it does so responsibly.
I think we have responsible software in our hands. So one of the things that you keyed in on, and it's one of my favorite things to talk about, is our user community. Because, and not by my prompting, but several people this season have keyed in on how amazing our forum is, how incredible our user community at large is. And we were touched on at the stage being part of that. But what do you think, what is it about SketchUp as a product that kind of automatically lets the people helping each other or jumping on the forum, or what are we doing right?
So I think there's a handful of things that really stand out. There used to be, I don't think we really are actively making self-paced tutorials anymore.
We made some for the 2019 release, but that was it.
Okay. So it used to be like when I would do support, someone would write in and they would say, how do I do this? And I would literally pull up SketchUp and I would do a thing, I would create a scene. I would do a thing, I would create another scene, and I would just go through and I'd create the solution on how to accomplish this task in SketchUp, and then I'd email them that SketchUp file, which zips up just super, super great, which is also easy. So I think the ability for me to think visually, to try and problem solve, makes it easy, almost eager to help other people, because I'm like, I'm going to try and figure out how to do this, and then I'm going to send that to them. Like now, people might make a video of them doing that, but back then, videos were big. People were using, everybody didn't have bandwidth, like crazy broadband internet connections.
Well, and like you said, you've got to go install a player and codecs and everything.
So the fact that you can easily work in SketchUp to try and solve a problem, it's very much. I mean, it's a CAD package, but it's also a visual problem solving tool. I'm going to call it. So I think a lot of people, and they come in from all walks of life. I mean, somebody making a birdhouse. Somebody trying to figure out how to do a joint in woodworking. Someone trying to figure out how to create a couple up, that's actually one of our original, not couple up, but one of our original, almost a joke when we came out with the Follow Me tool, was to create an onion dome. Because everybody was always like, how would I make an onion dome? Because it's not easy to do. Right. And so we created a Follow Me tool and also made that super easy.
I just push this button.
Yeah. So I think that making a rhino were probably the two kind of the challenges people are always trying to stump the sage.
Make a rhino?
Yeah, like model a rhino.
Where'd that come from?
I don't know. The horns, the animal. I don't know where that one specifically came from, but yeah. So yeah, I think the community latches onto how, if you know how to do something, you're excited to tell someone how to do it, and it's so easy to do visually with SketchUp that I think a lot of people just jump right on that. Because I mean, sure, a lot of people answer just with words, but picture is 1,000 words. The video is
1,000 words, 32 times a second.
Yeah, so that's talking really fast in a lot of words. So I think that's a big thing. That's my guess. I know this is not an official. I'm not. I haven't got a degree in peopleology, so I don't know if that's really a thing. But that's what it feels like to me.
That makes a lot of sense, because I think about other design packages. I mean, everybody's got a forum nowadays. Everybody has a community that they point to. And I'm not going to bash anybody in particular, but I've used a lot of different design softwares throughout the years. And some people just don't have a community. They say they do. Maybe that community is because they have more than one user out there.
Yeah.
But they're not connected.
Yeah.
And you have other people who just are so guarded about their process that you go into their forum, somebody asks a question, and there'll be 2-3 weeks and no response. Which blows my mind, because you go on our forum, and when I started here, one of the things I did when I first started as a sales engineer, Chris Dizon, my boss, said, we'll get up on the forum and answer some questions. So I was waiting a new question to come up, like, I know this answer. I start to type, and as I'm typing, whoop, there's Dave Richards got it. Whoop, Fox answered it. I'm like, come on, guys. Let me try to answer something.
I mean, I think that's like we were saying before that they do a great job of answering stuff quickly and like more so even than we do. And the reality is that they're just faster. Like I don't know if it's because there's so many of them or if they're just trying to prove something to me or what, but I can't answer a question as quickly as the other one. So more often I come in and I just go, yep. And that's all I can really contribute to the conversation. So
just click a heart on their reply. But I mean, and aside from stages too, it's really cool to see even new users. Like we've had some people who are brand new people. I'm like, this guy has been on here for 2 weeks and he just recorded a GIF, screenshot what he did in SketchUp to answer someone else's question.
Yeah.
Again, where does that happen?
Yeah. And what's interesting to me is we have 3 people that work here that were stages at some level over the years. So like a product manager and I guess I don't necessarily know what Tom's doing. I don't know what to call his position.
Development.
Okay. Yeah. So so extensibility development.
Right.
And then Colin now working on support stuff. So I think that's pretty cool too. I don't know how often you see the community like end up becoming part of the company, but that's pretty neat. And I think one thing is that people also get really excited. I've never heard somebody just be super excited. I won't mention any products. I've never heard anybody being super excited about other competing products. But there's people sit down and have an enthusiastic conversation about SketchUp, especially like when you go to our base camp and if you sit down or like say, I've been to every base camp. And so we try and make a point of getting together and actually getting to talk with stages. And so that's really interesting to do because you get all these people that are both passionate and knowledgeable and just letting all of that mix as you're just eating dinner and drinking too much sake or something. All of a sudden you've got these amazing animated conversations with people that they're basically keeping all of the SketchUp, the greater user base running. So
it was cool because I got to go to dinner with the stages that could make it last. It's 2018. We had a stage dinner, and what was interesting to me is what a diverse group they were. I mean, to look at them, you go, this is like these aren't people who would normally you wouldn't see these 2 guys walking down the street normally together, but. And that's not to say any of them were at anything good or bad or whatever, but they're just such a diverse crew and international. They're people from all over the world. And some people who, I won't name them, but we had a couple stages who not real talkative because they're not real confident in English as their second language. Yeah. But when they get on the forum, just paragraphs.
Sometimes you got to tell them to shut up. No, you don't tell them to shut up.
But we encourage it more.
Talk.
But yeah, it's really cool. And I don't want to sound cheesy, but SketchUp it unites people on a level that like you said, I haven't seen it in any other software.
Yeah. So I mean, I always try and look at another application and just to try and see what it is, but I can't find a way to reproduce it. So all I can do is I let the sort of guess at what it is that's getting people excited about this and that. But yeah, there was nothing at Google has ever had the same enthusiasm in the community, and as of yet. Nothing at Trimble has really got a community with that same level of excitement. So, I don't know. It's definitely something that's very, very special in SketchUp. But
I feel like we get to be a part of it.
I'm glad that it's not shrinking. Like you always think, oh well, it's great now, but someday. But if like a stage, if they move on to some other part of their life or just users, there's still more people coming in. So, and what's nice is if someone goes away, they're still welcome back.
Yeah,
with open arms. There's not like this resentment that someone has left.
And that's even this kind of amazed me too. Is like you said, Sketchucation kind of came up out of not a disappointment, but frustration with the community solution that was there at Google. And Sketchucation's still up and running right now.
Doing great.
We have a lot of users who spend time in both. It's really cool that here's this totally user-run community, and it's just as good as our official one. And
there's a lot of overlap with users on either of them. I feel like there's probably a lot of people just in ours and a lot of people just in theirs, and it doesn't seem to hurt anybody for it. I was going to say something really clever about all that, and I don't remember what it was.
It's good. Makes sense. Good.
Yeah, I mean, it was going to be fun, so just edit that in post.
I'll come back to that.
It's always interesting to see like where people have landed, because I've seen people that went there and then they didn't like and come back, or I've seen people show up here and then not like and then go back. And we even have I don't go to the Sketchucation more as much as I used to.
Mm-hmm.
But for a long time, a lot of our QA and our engineers spend a lot of time over there.
Mm-hmm.
So and I know that at least some of our QA and engineers still go over there, but I don't know that we have necessarily the same SketchUp presence there. But
yeah, it's
nice. We've got a good relationship with the guys running that forum. So and they come to base camp and everybody gets along. It's great. So
yes,
it's awesome to see that.
And I think that's unique too. I don't know if there's a whole lot of other groups that could claim something like that.
Yeah. What really gets me is I like SketchUp, but there's nothing that I get excited enough about to really get out and be a power user in that community.
Mm-hmm.
So it really says something to the users that they just kind of keep sticking with it. Because I can't figure out what exactly keeps them coming back, but they do.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. No, that's what I was gonna say was the fact that Sketchucation spun off and was so popular just sort of asserts that anytime someone at some management comes up and says, "What is it you guys are doing that makes your community so great?" The reality is that I'm not doing anything. I mean, the product and the people just come together, and we're just sort of facilitating a place where we have conversation.
Well, and I'll say that I'll brag for you, but I think that is under your watch is making sure that platform is there, that freedom, and it's not the Wild West. People aren't in there swearing at each other, and so that it is controlled, but it is an opportunity for everyone to connect. Because if that wasn't there, if we took that away completely,
not only would we, they probably go to Sketchucation, but also we would lose just such a connection. Because there's our product managers are all spending time in our forum, and they're all. We have all the forums that people can see, but we also have some different private ones for different little offshoots of this initiative or that initiative. We've got a group that is all devoted to working with kids on the autism spectrum. Project Spectrum is what it's actually called internally here, and so they've got their own little subset, and that's kept private so that they can kind of do stuff at their own rate or without any fear of repercussion or how they're interacting with the world. And we have stuff like beta testing other products. We have people that like education, just all these different areas that all come in this forum. And the nice thing is our product managers can go in there and they can actually interact with the user base and see how they're using it or find out what problems are happening. There's a lot of bugs. We've got entire sections under each of the products on our forum for reporting problems. And so we've got our QA team is always hanging out those. So everything is watched. We've got a whole bunch of different places that you can talk to the forum, and there's just eyes on them constantly. So, and often our sages will be like, "Oh, did you see this?" And we didn't. So.
It's amazing. It is just an incredible community. It is. All right, so we have come to the portion of the show where we do a little segment called "How Do You SU?" So this is where we dive deep into your own personal relationship with SketchUp.
Well, so it's been 16 years, so there's been plenty of opportunity. I think probably my biggest, most exciting was I actually designed a timber frame workshop in SketchUp. And then I actually managed to find a guy in Tennessee who ran a timber works league that would actually come out and run a week-long kind of boot camp. Come out here and learn how to do timber frame.
Oh, wow.
And so I learned how to, I designed stuff in SketchUp. I sent it to him. He had a guy that also worked in SketchUp, and he just fixed the joints. And then we ran a week-long session, and I just kind of invited people to come out, and then for free learned how to do, cut just the big old joints for building a timber frame. So now I've got a 560 square foot timber frame workshop in my backyard that was all designed in SketchUp. So that's probably my biggest one.
So I'm going to challenge you to go back though. What's your first one? What's the first thing you made in SketchUp?
First one was a long time ago.
I'm trying to get off easy and just talk about the big ones.
Yeah. so I'll be honest, for most of my life at SketchUp, my projects are often more problem-solving things like laying out floor joists to get what my board count is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't necessarily have a good big model so much as I just have a bunch of boards in a row and I'm like, okay, based on that length and that spacing, I'm going to need X number of boards to do it. So, but that's, again, part of the workshop. I think probably one of the first things I did was a chicken coop.
All right. Is it your chicken coop or is this for someone?
It was my chicken coop, which is still standing. That's good. It still has chickens in it.
Properly designed.
Also good. And then I did, and so that was one where I actually did design it. And then the next one was probably, it was me just kind of figuring out board count and just building out like a whole fort for the kids in my backyard for the kids. And it's already been so long that I've since now torn that down.
Wow. Those get a full backyard then.
Yeah, I got more backyard to deal with now.
All right, so flip side of that coin, what's the most recent thing you've been working on in SketchUp?
So I literally still have the SketchUp model up right now. I'm doing a headboard for my wife for Christmas, 2019. It's almost done.
Shipping.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, so I'm doing it with like a lot of reclaimed lumber. So I'm having to figure out how to like get the right, my boards are not all the same width. So I'm having to do a lot of juggling to figure out what I've got. And then I'm trying to figure out my lengths of boards and making sure they line up. And so that one is probably, that one is currently actively in development. Before that, as far as completed, I just built a bunk bed for my son last year.
So it's definitely coming to buildable stuff. Big thing for you.
Yeah, they tend to, my SketchUp models tend to become wooden things in the real world. I don't know that I've made any of the stuff I've 3D printed. I've modified a lot of 3D printed stuff out there. Taken either other SketchUp files or other STLs and modified them in SketchUp for my purposes. But the nice thing about when I did the shop is I did the whole thing in SketchUp. Mm-hmm. And then I turned around and I created documents to actually take to the city for all my permits. Oh. They were very impressed that some guy just building this thing in his backyard managed to come with this quality. Because I get to their level of impressedness suggests a lot of people might come in with greasy napkins with an idea drawn on it. And then there's like, this is what I want to build. And where I'm like, okay, I'm going to put studs here, and this is how tall it is, and this is how far it is offset from the side of the yard. So
that's good. I think there's a square around here with a little stick for your smiley face for scale. And that's, I'm going to build it.
There was like,
so what? I think you already answered this because you launched into it. The next question was, what's your most impactful SketchUp model? But it sounds like that's your shed.
I always shut down mentally a little bit when someone calls it a shed.
I apologize.
As previously mentioned, the thing is almost 600 square feet.
That is a big building.
So, but yeah, that would be the most notable and most enduring thing because I don't think that thing's come down. I'm not moving. My wife's like, if I want to move, I can't move because you want to keep that shop. I'm like, you're not speaking wrong.
Settle in. We're here for the long haul. All right. So I'll challenge you to come out of the previous model when I ask what is the best SketchUp model you've made,
and excluding that one.
Yeah. So we know that one's got a special spot in your heart. But is there something where you design something you didn't know how you're going to make it, or something that was an accomplishment that you go, ooh, that's good stuff?
I'm gonna reveal my true colors here and let you know that I am not a very good SketchUpper. So I don't have a whole lot that.
Well, best really, is relative to you, so
right. And you've just stolen all of my thunder by omitting one particular model. It's funny. Like at base camp, if you encounter me at base camp, then I probably would be willing to, or I may actually pull my phone out to show you my shop because I couldn't not shut up about that thing. I think probably, so I've got a workbench. Like one of my next big goals is trying to create an actual one-working workbench. Mm-hmm. And so I've got a couple of iterations on what I want to do there. And that's one nice thing is I get to try and figure out sizing. Mm-hmm. And so I'm still trying to figure out what size I want it to be. But creating this actual, it would be like, a big, heavy, hundreds of pound workbench that nobody moves around. So as I continue to tweak that, and it changes, unfortunately, month by month, that's probably at least the funnest for me because I'm having to do so much tweaking with it.
You know, that's one of those spots where eventually you got to stop designing and start building. That's always
that's what I've heard.
Transition. All right. Flip side of that coin. What do you recall as being your worst SketchUp model?
Well, so we can return to the chicken coop because there were a lot of adjustments made in the build process there. I had it. I printed it out. I'm out there looking at my stuff. And back then, I was not necessarily as skilled at hammering and sawing and things like that. And so, to this day, I still have to duck to go into. Like, I've got 8-foot long boards. I should be able to create something that's tall enough that I can walk into it. But for some reason, like what looked good in SketchUp didn't actually translate to proper Jody scale. Oops. So, yeah. So there's so that coop is a little. It could be better. If I were to do it all over again, it would be better, and it would fit me better. In hindsight.
Well, I think that's a fair answer because I think if something's going so bad, you know it's going to be worse. You're probably not going to pursue it a model anymore. So the worst is probably what could have been better than that.
So the worst successful model.
Yeah.
Call that. The worst one that actually went on to become a thing.
That works. That's a fair.
I was on Facebook yesterday and someone was asking for shop slogans or something like that. And there's one that was like build or measure twice, cut once, hammer it into place, paint it to match. And my wife has painted that chicken coop perfectly so that you would think, oh, everything is here by design because they've run out of paint been applied.
It's all in the finish.
That's right.
Or I did my basement, same thing. I'm like, drywall will cover that.
That's right.
Mud will cover that. Texture will cover that. And by the time I got to paint, I had nothing else to fall back on.
Yeah, I could actually return to the shop and point out the parts because the shop was a big enough thing and there's different parts. So whenever I went to start, so the whole thing is just big timbers, but then I had to create curtain walls to go up on the sides that sheathe the whole outer thing. My model for those curtain walls was Jody ain't a carpenter, and that is obvious in the way that I built these things. And probably one of the funniest things is me out there trying to build a 16-foot segment of 2x4s, realizing I built it on the deck and had to get it out and around all the timbers and then stand it up. And the whole thing is it's 16 feet long, wobbly as all get out. And the SketchUp model wasn't as bad so much as I was not thinking through the feasibility of that model.
You know, there's something to experience. Like, you got to screw it up at least once before you get it right.
And I screwed it up at least once.
That's good. See, now, next time you never build one, you'll be good.
That's right. Perfect. Got this nailed.
All right, so you did talk about working tech support and interacting directly. The last question I have is about new users. When you see somebody, what's the one thing you see people do wrong you want to educate them on, or what's the one tip you want to give people if they're new to SketchUp?
So the one that I guess is kind of frustrating to me is people come in assuming to be an expert on day one. I've always said SketchUp's easy to learn, difficult to master. And a lot of people come in wanting to at least be at the midpoint to mastery. Like they just assume, okay, I can push pull. The rest of this is going to be easy. And I feel like it's worth just sitting down with SketchUp and just making junk. Just using, like getting used to inferencing, getting used to the push-pull tool, getting used to being able to draw and use your snapping and your inferencing to actually create square objects, even if you don't do anything else with it. I mean, for the longest time, so I used to do tech support. So that was before I was at SketchUp. I was doing tech support elsewhere. I was at the game studio, and I've done tech support for years. And I would encourage, and this was usually people newer at computers, I would say, just sit down and play solitaire. Learn how to use your mouse. Mm-hmm. So you're just clicking and dragging, and that's all that matters. And it's the same thing with SketchUp is, just get used to the way that the inferencing works. Because once you've done it enough, so many things you do in SketchUp are intuitive. Mm-hmm. But until you were used to doing it, they're not the way that most software works. Right. So it doesn't necessarily come easily to you when you're trying to draw a line because you assume that it's going to work this way, and inferencing makes it so much easier and better than it could be if you were just trying to freehand. People take the freehand tool and it's like, get your hand off that.
That's fair, and I think that's one of the spots that we've kind of shot ourselves in the foot at SketchUp because we do talk about how and I will still say this, and I do still say it. I think it is probably the easiest to learn 3D drawing software out there.
Yeah.
But you're right. That doesn't mean you install it and you're an expert.
Yeah, you can do a lot without being an expert.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would say there are a lot of people that are working professionally with SketchUp that are not experts. In fact, I would meet a lot of people that are amazing power users, and they'll tell you there's still more they can learn.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just come in and just don't expect to be as amazing as everybody else, and just don't be hard on yourself. Just get in there and futz around for a bit. I mean, it's a visual tool, and so there's a kind of a learning curve. But once you get used to it, it's nice.
That is great advice. All right. Any last words of wisdom before we sign off?
No, I think I dropped a couple of quotes and shop adages and stuff like that. So I don't really have a whole lot beyond that. I think I already said the most impactful stuff.
There's definitely good stuff.
Just rewind back.
Just listen to
Watch
the
those parts. Yeah, those are good. I'm probably going to watch this.
All right. Well, listen. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here with us, and thank you for listening. And we will see you next time. Thank you.